1937. Rome celebrates the first anniversary of the new fascist empire. Italy's armies parade past their emperor, King Victor Emmanuel, and his dictator, Benito Mussolini. Mussolini's dream is realized in the revival of Rome's imperial past. The victorious legions march among the ruins of ancient Rome, leading the loyal soldiers of conquered Africa. Red-fezed Askaris from Eritrea, Dubat warriors from Somaliland, Meharisti from Libya. For years, Mussolini had prepared the Italian people to fight the war which would win him an empire. Italy's ruling fascists needed war and the glory that victory brings. War could solve the inglorious problems of mass unemployment and overpopulation. Mussolini could offer no peaceful solutions. War could mend Italy's crippled economy. Victory could silence opposition more effectively than the state-controlled press. More effectively than rhetoric, a victorious war would truly unite the people behind their duce.
Popolo di Ancona e delle Marche. Quando il fatale andare del tempo si avrà allontanato da quest'età, gli uomini verranno a vedere quello che noi abbiamo compiuto. In pace e in guerra. Ricorderanno il 1915, l'anno fatale nella storia dell'umanità, che pesa come il 476, il 1492, il 1815. C'è un prima e un dopo, c'è un prima della guerra e un dopo guerra. Non guardiamo più al prima della guerra. Non abbiamo nostalgie per quel tempo, per quegli uomini, per quegli avvenimenti, per quelle dottrine, poiché noi abbiamo bruciato i nostri bastimenti alle nostre spalle. Ed allora che comincia la storia d'Italia. La vera storia d'Italia, perché se prima si poteva pensare che la storia d'Italia fosse il risultato più o meno complicato di manovre diplomatiche, di intrighi di governo, di passioni di minoranze, è solo con l'anno 1915, col maggio radioso del 1915, che il popolo italiano irrompe sulla scena politica, caccia i trafficanti del Tempio e diventa finalmente l'artefice del suo destino. La conclusione che io traggo dinanzi a voi in questa giornata luminosa di sole e fervida di speranza è questa: che oggi il popolo italiano e il regime fascista sono una unità compatta, infrangibile, formidabile, che può sfidare come sfida tutti i suoi nemici e anche l'andare del tempo.
Mussolini's empire grew from the Italian colonies in the deserts of northeast Africa, Libya, Eritrea with its Red Sea coast, and further south, 2,000 miles from Rome, Italian Somaliland. Between these two, tempting Mussolini, Ethiopia, the last independent state in colonial Africa, exposed to invasion on two fronts. Addis Ababa, the city named the New Flower, set among forests of eucalyptus trees on a temperate plateau ringed by deserts and barren mountains. Addis Ababa, remote capital of Ethiopia, at the heart of one of the world's oldest empires. The town's one tarmac road, built for the new emperor's coronation in 1930, spanned by the Imperial Arch. A few motor cars passed under the arch, carrying European diplomats and businessmen. 20th century Europe was slowly invading traditional Ethiopia. One modern hotel had opened, the Greek-owned Imperial. There were 2 cinemas and 1 electric generator, but no drains and 150,000 inhabitants. The country's ancient Coptic church was founded 1,600 years ago when Christianity came to Ethiopia. Defender of the Christian faith was the Emperor of Ethiopia, claiming direct descent from the biblical King Solomon and the legendary Queen of Sheba. Ras Tafari, crowned Haile Selassie I, King of Kings, conquering Lion of Judah. Accompanied by bodyguards and servants, Ethiopia's warlords and noblemen would travel from the border regions for an audience with their emperor in his capital. Without the loyalty of these independent feudal rulers, the empire's inaccessible mountain and desert tribes would be beyond Haile Selassie's control. Many would have marched for weeks across hostile country, where nomadic Gala bandits attacked ill-armed travelers on the mule tracks. The city's European population left Ethiopia's static feudal order of life undisturbed. Wealthy citizens still went about their business with an escort of servants. The organization of society had not changed for centuries. Ethiopia remained a very poor country with no modern industry. Thank you. the fascist government poured both money and manpower into a major rearmament program. Italy was made ready for war. Industry thrived as it built the military machine to crush Ethiopia. By May 1935, Mussolini's aggressive intentions were no secret, but the major powers of Europe just watched. They made no real protest. The Duce's empty threats frightened them. At home, his reputation was rising as unemployment fell and patriotic pride grew. Fascist crowds cheered him through the summer along the road to war. Ethiopia's northern and southern borders were threatened by a massive build-up of Italian troops. In Addis Ababa, heart of Ethiopia, the emperor celebrated the Feast of Maskal, the annual ritual marking the end of the long rainy season. This year, peace would end when the summer rain stopped, when the roads were dry and hard, and Italy's invading armies could march towards the capital. Haile Selassie still believed Ethiopia's membership of the League of Nations would protect his country against invasion. New recruits joined the Imperial Guard, the elite of Ethiopia's armed forces, trained in Western warfare by Western advisors. They were dressed in the khaki uniforms of the Belgian army and armed with modern rifles. But they were too few to win a war.
ወደፊት ሂድ ቀኝ ግራ ቀኝ ግራ ቀኝ ግራ ቀኝ ግራ ቀኝ ግራ ራመድ በል ትንሽ አንተ ከኋላ ያለኸው ግራ ቀኝ ግራ ቀኝ ግራ ቀኝ ግራ አሁን ደግሞ ተዘጋጅ ቀኝ ኋላ ዙር አይ መቼም ትንሽ ከዚህ የተሻለ ለመስራት መሞከር አለባችሁ
War propaganda had revived the heroic Roman legend. A new sense of national identity was being created, uniting all classes, young and old, in the spirit of a fascist adventure. Rumors of war had spread through Ethiopia. Warriors flocked to Addis Ababa to pledge their support to Haile Selassie. The fate of the empire would rest with these fearless, badly armed, barefoot warriors, dressed in their white cotton shamas, marching in the independent armies of the powerful feudal chiefs, the 6 great races. Unwilling to help Ethiopia fight off Italy's colonial threat, the Western industrial nations refused to supply the emperor with arms. The Ethiopians would be forced to meet Italy's machine guns and modern bombers with sticks, swords, spears, and 19th century muskets. Throughout the summer, troop ships left Naples and Genoa, bound for Suez, Massawa, and Mogadishu. The Italian soldiers sincerely believed they were sailing to liberate and civilize Ethiopia. The fascist propaganda machine had worked hard, pounding home a message of warlike, savage Ethiopians, of a society where millions of slaves longed for freedom, a country rich in resources and ripe for invasion. The Italian poor and the unemployed were promised a place in the sun, with free land and an easy fortune in the conquered empire. The mechanical power of Italy's armory was Mussolini's guarantee of a quick, clean war with few Italian casualties. As the Chemical Warfare Service shipped poison gas to Eritrea, Mussolini promised his soldiers a war without tears. The Red Cross received Queen Elena's blessing and sailed to tend the wounded. Five army divisions disembarked at Massawa. 5 divisions of black shirts also landed, looking for glory in Ethiopia. War materials flowed steadily from Italian industry to the ports of Massawa and Mogadishu. Boats queued at the docks, waiting to land supplies for the most powerful army Africa had ever seen. 6,000 machine guns, 150 tanks, 700 pieces of artillery, 150 aircraft, and huge supplies of ammunition passed through the docks before the invasion began. During the next 6 months, the shipments of men and armaments would increase 4 times. This overwhelming military machine was reinforced by native colonial troops. The Italians fully exploited the region's tribal and religious tensions. In the south, they paid the Muslim Dubat to fight against Christian Ethiopians. In both Somaliland and Eritrea, the courageous Askaris were recruited to the Italian cause and trained as a frontline fighting force for the invasion of Ethiopia. By September, Italian positions were established along the Ethiopian borders. A telegram from Mussolini reached Supreme Commander General Emilio De Bono in Eritrea. Order you to attack at dawn on 3rd. Repeat, 3rd October. That day at 5 a.m., without declaring war, Italian forces swept into Ethiopia, led by the Caproni bombers of the Regia Aeronautica. Among the fascist celebrities who came to win easy honor in the African War were 2 distinguished volunteers, Il Duce's own sons, Lieutenant Vittorio Mussolini and his younger brother Bruno. War drums spread news of the invasion throughout the empire. The warlords and chiefs assembled their tribal armies and marched to Addis Ababa. Ethiopia's feudal chiefs were often at war with each other. Now they united to fight off the invaders. Many of them had fought the Italians once before and won. In 1896, Ethiopian warriors had destroyed the Italian army at the Battle of Adwa. They were sure they could humiliate Italy again. Before they set out on the 6-week march into the northern mountains, the armies paraded before the emperor in the age-old ritual of Ethiopian war. Ras Mulugeta, hero of Adwa, approached Haile Selassie. Jan Hoy, I was killing Italians before you were born. Now I march into battle once again. I await you on the battlefield. He saluted the emperor and left with his 80,000 men on the long march north. All day, the warriors paraded before the emperor, boasting of their bravery in past battles. But Haile Selassie knew that the invasion had brought a new kind of warfare to Ethiopia. These old battles had been fought in the old way, hand to hand, from dawn to dusk, won and lost in a single day.
Listen to Kaki.
In mid-October, the Lion of Judah left his capital for the imperial city of Harar. At the railway station in Addis Ababa, representatives of the foreign press joined the emperor's subjects and the increasingly anxious diplomatic corps to watch Haile Selassie's departure. This French-built line, linking Addis Ababa to the Red Sea port of Djibouti, was Ethiopia's only railway. Empress Minen joined her husband on the imperial train. General Vergin, Haile Selassie's Swedish military advisor, was among the well-wishers. On the long journey east, the train stopped to take on water in the barren hills. The Emperor scanned the sky. Already there were rumors of enemy aircraft approaching, but the skies were still empty. A telephone call to the palace brought news of the war. Harrar was a city Haile Selassie knew well. Like his father before him, he had once been governor of Harrar, Ras Tafari. Now, General Graziani's armies were marching north from Somaliland, threatening the southern deserts of Ogaden and Harrar itself. The emperor needed the support of the region's tribes to protect the empire. He returned to Harrar to rally support among the Arabic-speaking Islamic chiefs, who owed no loyalty to the Coptic Church and the Amharic traditions of the capital. To identify local loyalties with the empire's war, he laid the foundation stone of a monument to those who died in a bloody border clash with the Italians at Walwal in 1934.
በወልወል ለሞቱት ጀግኖቻችን መታሰቢያ ይሆን ዘንድ ይህንን ደንጊያ አኑረናል።
ciidamadayadii waddankooda u dhintay xusuustooda awgeed ayaanu asaaskan u dhigayna.
The southern tribes rallied to the emperor's cause. The ritual of war began as the warriors gathered. Since the early 1930s, Italian instructors had trained the Dubat, fiercest of the Somali tribesmen, to fight a war with modern European weapons and traditional Somali ferocity. Graziani ordered them to advance across the disputed border region into the parched desert of Ogaden. General Graziani was a ruthless colonial campaigner, eager for his chance of glory and jealous of General De Bono, who commanded the more important northern front. Graziani moved men and supplies forward across the river Webe Shebele, destroying Ethiopian resistance as he pushed north. He urged Mussolini to authorize a march on Harar.
Avanti! Avanti!
Only one Italian division had been sent to the southern front. In the north, Graziani's rival, General De Bono, had 10. Graziani was therefore forced into a largely defensive role, protecting the long border positions in the disputed Ogaden against the threat of counter-invasion by the armies of Ras Desta and Ras Nasibu. But Graziani was not content with defense. He had sworn that the Duce shall have Ethiopia with or without the Ethiopians.
Caricate, puntate! Attenzione che stanno vedendo!
Avanti! Avanti!
Mussolini was impatient with De Bono's cautious advance in the north. He insisted on action, and his commander reluctantly ordered the Blackshirts to begin the prestigious march on the undefended town of Makale.
Hosanna in excelsis, benedictus qui venit in nomine Domini, Hosanna in excelsis.
Men and metal received the chaplain's blessing, and the fascist crusade took its civilizing mission south.
Sanctus, Sanctus, Sanctus Dominus Deus, in nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Amen.
Prendite le
Ma sta attenti, va testoso, chi che mi bagni si sta andando. Ma te avevo fatto un bagno in che, no? Dai, dammi un savone, dai, fa presto, va, tieni a
Ma che roba è questa? Ma non l'ho trovata, ma sai che questa roba... Ma lo sai che questa roba qui mi sembra quella che danno a cose, ai carcerati.
Metti un po' di limone lì, dai. Non c'è nulla da temere. Siamo cristiani anche noi. Ritornate al vostro villaggio e la pace sia fra voi. Io dimoscio come bene.
When the Black Shirts reached Makale on November the 8th, they met no resistance, for the town was governed by Ras Gugza, Haile Selassie's treacherous son-in-law, who had deserted his emperor to join the white-bearded General Debono. For the last time, Ethiopia's warlords and warriors assembled in Addis Ababa. Solemnly they circled St. George's Cathedral, drawing strength from heaven and the emperor as the invading armies drove deeper into Ethiopia. For the last time, the emperor led the procession around the Coptic church, heart of an ancient Christian tradition threatened by Rome. On December the 18th, the Fascist Association of War Widows and War Mothers staged a nationwide pledge of support for Mussolini's war. The Italian people joined together in a sacrifice of gold for the honor of Italy. Queen Elena led the women of Rome up to the altar of the nation.
Il nostro saluto alle gloriose bandiere, agli ufficiali e soldati di terra, di mare, dell'aria, alle camicie nere, agli operai, agli ascari fedeli. Buon Natale!
The sacrifice was Italy's symbolic answer to the League of Nations and its feeble economic sanctions. Firm action by the European powers at the League could have stopped Mussolini's war in Ethiopia. Sanctions merely united the Italian people behind the Duce and his war. 250,000 Romans came to sacrifice their gold wedding rings in a crucible smoldering with incense. In return, the state gave them a ring of iron. Italy's women now belonged to Mussolini.
Natale a tutti!
Un fiasco anche per noi.
Una bella festa. Bene, grazie. Buon Natale. Buon Natale. Giovanni, buon Natale.
A week later, the Italian Expeditionary Force celebrated Christmas under the African sun and under a new commander-in-chief, Marshal Pietro Badoglio. Mussolini had finally lost patience with De Bono's dithering and replaced him with a more ruthless leader. The brutal Badoglio was to take the war into a new and crueler phase. Chianti bottles from the Christmas cactus brought the festive spirit to Italy's lonely soldiers camped in a dry land. As the presents were passed around, the bombing of Ethiopia intensified. There were also Christmas presents for the people of Ethiopia, to be flown in by the 103rd Squadron, special delivery to Dessie, Haile Selassie's new headquarters, north of Addis Ababa on the edge of the battle zone.
Questa bomba farà tempo. Vedrai che macello. Ecco, 60-80 cadrà, vedrai che...
Avanzate da nord-ovest, non appassatevi troppo sul ghiacciaio. Abbiamo già colpito da reclame.
Indietro, indietro, accoglietemi da lì! Bocca al lupo, eh!
The Red Cross flag no longer protected the Ethiopians. The Emperor's presence in Dessie attracted attack. When the Christmas bombs stopped falling, Haile Selassie inspected the remains of Dessie's Red Cross hospital. It had been hit by 40 bombs. Badoglio had turned to poison gas and the bombing of civilian targets to speed up his civilizing mission. He wanted no awkward European witnesses from the International Red Cross to see the victims of bombing raids and the flesh blistered by gas. But the Red Cross volunteers, British, Swedish, Egyptian, remained. Ethiopian casualties were heavy, but the Emperor's chiefs marched to counterattack. The old warlord Ras Mulugeta marched north. Ras Kassa and Ras Seyum menaced Makale from mountain strongholds. And Ras Imru attacked on the western flank. Badoglio was determined to wipe them out, one by one. He would stop at nothing. The Ethiopian peasant warriors marched slowly north with their wives and a few days' supplies. They fought fiercely, fearlessly, in the only way they knew. Each day at dusk, they would withdraw from battle, and they never fought on Sundays. But Haile Selassie knew their best chance of victory lay in guerrilla warfare. Be cunning, be fierce, he told his warriors. Do not mass together. Do not wear light-colored clothes. Stay hidden. Strike suddenly. Only the shrewd Ras Imru followed his emperor's advice. His men raided convoys in Italian-held territory, harassed road gangs, seized guns and ammunition, wrecked enemy morale. In the new year, Badoglio's Eritrean corps moved against Ras Casa and Ras Seum in Tigray. The Italian mechanized columns could not move quickly in the wild mountains of Tigray, where mules proved more mobile than trucks. Marshal Badoglio knew his troops were not equipped to fight a guerrilla war. His strategy was to lure the Ethiopians into open battle.
L'artiglieria è stata perfetta.
Superior radio communications were critical to Badoglio's strategy. Orders were transmitted fast as news of enemy movements was received. The Askaris marched into the hills to surround Ras Seum's army in a pincer movement. Ras Seyum's army was destroyed in Tigray. Prisoners were herded into camps. Irreplaceable weapons were lost. Without modern arms, the Ethiopians' courage was tragically futile. Many of the prisoners had lost brothers on the battlefield, killed as they tried to tear the guns from the enemy's hands. Now they have lost their guns and their honor in the humiliation of capture.
Metteteli tutti in riga. Su, 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 avanti, avanti. Di qua, tutti in fila. Su, forza, forza. Avanti. Bene, bene così, avanti. Tutti in fila. The Regia Aeronautica ruled the skies unchallenged. Reconnaissance aircraft patrolled all day, mapping the land and looking for the white cotton shamas which betrayed the enemy. Bombers terrorized towns, villages, and marching columns with almost complete impunity. Italy's air power decided the war. Anti-aircraft guns in Ethiopia was the Emperor's Oerlikon, mounted on a rock terrace outside a bomb-proof cave in the hills near Dessie. The cave had become his headquarters after constant bomb attacks had driven him from the town.
kaleeni soo ridnay halkaysani ka timid boqolaal kale baa jira.
Too few planes were shot down to interrupt the bombing raids. The terror in the air continued. Civilians moved out of their villages into the hills. They dug caves in the hillside where the bombs would not find them. When marching columns were caught by aircraft in the mountain passes, they were easy targets for the Regia's bombs, guns, and gas. The Disparata Squadron's number 1 returns to base, piloted by Mussolini's son-in-law, the Minister of Propaganda, Count Galeazzo Ciano.
Spero che abbia fatto un buon volo. Questo voto non credevo di farlo. Controllo tutto in fretta perché devo partire su Ti hanno sparato poco questa volta, Vedi così.
The tide of war had turned against Haile Selassie. He drove north to the front to consult his commanders and rally the dejected troops. Some warriors responded to their emperor's call and went back to battle, but it was too late. Badoglio had banned the foreign press from the front line. Now he invites them to witness the war's decisive battle, the attack on Amba Aradam, mountain fortress of Ras Mulugeta. If Ras Mulugeta's army of 80,000 could be crushed, only the emperor would stand between the Italians and Addis Ababa. Aerial surveys revealed Ras Mulugeta's weak point. The Italian attack would come from the south. A 9-day siege began. The Italians closed in under a cover of night and cloud. When the morning wind blew the cloud away around Amba Aradam, the Ethiopians saw the Italian army marching up the slopes towards them. Ras Mulugeta's drums beat the alarm. For days, the mountain fortress had been bombarded by aircraft and artillery. Ras Mulugeta just sat, bewildered and shell-shocked in his cave, incapable of action. Amba Aradam was taken. The road south was open. 6,000 Ethiopians had died on Amba Aradam. 15,000 were killed in the next 3 days, cut down by the Regia Aeronauticas machine guns or burned alive by mustard gas. One of the dead was Ras Mulugeta's own son, killed in command of the rear guard. When Ras Mulugeta turned back to mourn over the body, he too was killed by a bullet from the sky. Ethiopian resistance was falling apart. The surviving armies retreated south, demoralized and sick, carrying their wounded and mourning their dead. Ras Imru's army was destroyed in the Battle of Shireh. Ras Kassa and Ras Seyum were now utterly defeated in Tembien. When they reached their emperor, they had no troops left. Finally, in the last desperate battle, the emperor's own forces were massacred at Lake Ashangi. The war was lost. European governments were deaf to Ethiopia's appeals. Africa was too remote. But foreign sympathizers sent medical supplies. Some even joined the International Red Cross effort in Ethiopia to work in makeshift field hospitals, as ill-equipped and vulnerable as the Ethiopian army. The Black-Shirt Army was on the last stage of the march of conquest to the old Ethiopian capital of Gondar. For the glory of the fascist party, Secretary General Achilles Tarace marched behind the Roman standard along a route known to be free of enemy troops into a town untouched by war. The population didn't realize the colonial invader had come to stay. Beaten in the last battle, abandoned by the League of Nations, the emperor had retreated through deserted towns and villages towards Addis Ababa. Though the Italians were closing in behind him, he stopped for 2 days to fast and pray on his knees in the monolithic church of Lalibela. Haile Selassie planned to move to the hills and fight a guerrilla campaign, but his chiefs and advisors knew their broken armies could not fight on. They persuaded the emperor to leave Ethiopia. On May the 2nd, the imperial family left by train for Djibouti, en route for Palestine, and exile in London. The emperor was leaving a poisoned landscape. turning yellow under an invisible rain of mustard gas sprayed from aircraft. Spraying the mountainsides flanking his columns had eased Badoglio's advance. Where the gas touched flesh, blisters broke out. Barefoot warriors were very vulnerable as they marched over the poisoned land. The falling gas burned their shoulders and left many blind. The fumes burned lungs. People died from drinking poisoned water. The horrified Red Cross volunteers were not equipped to treat gas burns. Mustard gas was outlawed by international agreement after World War I. Mussolini authorized its widespread use to bring about the quick victory which would justify his huge investment in the war. Italian engineers built the roads to victory through the Ethiopian Empire. They were worthy successors to the road builders of ancient Rome. At night, air attacks were suspended, but work on the ground was ceaseless. Urgency increased as the rainy season came nearer, threatening to halt the advance of the heavy mechanized columns. Badoglio knew mud could defeat him where guns had failed. He had to reach Addis Ababa before the rains. The defeated empire lay in ruins. Smoke rose from burned villages in the valleys, carrying the scent of victory up to Badoglio's advancing column. The bombs of the Regia Aeronautica had blasted a safe passage for the trucks, moving relentlessly towards Addis Ababa. The last traces of resistance were hunted down and destroyed. There was no refuge for Ethiopia's beaten warriors. No one was safe from attack, not even the wounded. The march of the Iron Will set out from Dessie on the final stage of Badoglio's drive to victory. For 10 days, the most powerful mechanized column Africa had ever seen rumbled remorselessly along Ethiopia's imperial highway towards Addis Ababa. There were nearly 2,000 vehicles, 11 batteries of artillery, and a squadron of light tanks. They met no resistance. The Askaris were sent ahead to enter Addis Ababa. When they were sure the city was safe, they withdrew, as Mussolini had ordered, to allow Badoglio to lead the Italian troops in triumph towards the imperial arch. 3 days after Haile Selassie's flight from his beaten empire, Badoglio drove into Addis Ababa. The rainy season was setting in, just a few days too late to save the empire. Badoglio's victory was complete.
He had defeated the emperor in battle and won the war's greatest prize, Addis Ababa. The fiercely defended city of Harar fell to General Graziani's southern army. The occupation of Ethiopia had begun. At 6 o'clock, the time ordained by Mussolini, the sound of church bells and factory sirens summoned the citizens of Rome to the Duce's headquarters in the Piazza Venezia. News of victory had reached Rome, and the people flocked to pay homage to the victorious leader. They had good reason to rejoice. Their soldiers had conquered the promised land, and it had been a short war. The tame press had shielded them from the uncomfortable truths which could spoil their pride in victory. Mussolini could also rejoice, with good reason. He had won 2 wars. The Ethiopians were beaten, and the Italian people were united in unconditional surrender to the fascist state. At 7:30, the Duce appeared on the balcony of the Palazzo Venezia and addressed Rome.
Uomini e donne di tutta Italia, italiani e amici dell'Italia, al di là dei monti e al di là dei mari, ascoltate, il maresciallo Badoglio telegrafa. Oggi, 5 maggio, alle ore 16, alla testa delle truppe vittoriose, sono entrato in Addis Abeba. Annuncio al popolo italiano e al mondo che la guerra è finita. che io aggiunga che si tratta della nostra pace, della pace romana, che si esprime in questa semplice, irrevocabile, definitiva proposizione: l'Etiopia è italiana!
From the balcony of Haile Selassie's old palace, Marshal Badoglio watched the Italian flag being raised over Addis Ababa with colorless formality. The victorious Italian army took possession of Ethiopia's defeated capital. This was the prize at the end of a 7-month campaign, the place in the sun Mussolini had promised. The city they saw was shattered and burned. Every sign of European ownership had been smashed before their arrival. The victorious march of the Iron Will arrived in the center of Ethiopia's ancient empire to find an ugly ruin. The poor and broken city fell far short of their dreams of victory. The Addis Ababa the Italians had won was not the one the emperor had left. All order left with him. The city was a shell, wrecked and looted by its population. There was little left for the conquerors to occupy, as the foreign legations emerged from their barricaded compounds to welcome the Italians. Slowly, the European population drifted back to the city from the hills. The Ethiopians watched quietly. 275,000 had died in a barbarous war. The European powers accepted the destruction of Ethiopia. They believed peace had returned to the world. Hitler had watched closely as the seeds of World War II were sown. The exiled emperor of Ethiopia continued his campaign for justice in Europe. A new empire prepared to announce its creation.
terra!